Hello, and welcome to the Unique Beauty and Meditation Podcast. I'm your host, Caryn. I am your spiritual life coach with a passion for guided meditation, and I think there is a beautiful wholeness to spiritual and energetic self-care, and I'm excited to help people connect with their inner stories. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today. I'm here with my good friend Danielle Graham from Divine Clarity, and we are continuing our journey as we talk about our chakra systems and how they show up in our life professionally and personally, and share a few details on them. Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. Yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good, good.
Would you like to take a moment to reintroduce yourself?
Oh, I suppose I am Danielle Graham, owner of Divine Clarity, intuitive medium, mentor. I don't know. I'm not as graceful at this as you are. We all know this by now. It's the third time we're on here. It's all good.
That's fantastic. That's perfect. Thank you for being here. I want to take a moment and thank everybody for your patience. Well, we took a couple of extra days to get this podcast out. Life is lifey, and it took us a little bit to connect our schedules. So thank you for being here and being patient as we continue this journey. So today we are going to talk about the solar plexus. We have talked about chakras in general. We've talked about the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and now we are going to talk about the solar plexus. So just to reference where, as we have in the past few episodes, where the solar plexus is, the solar plexus happens right in our core, right in the center, kind of our, I guess, mid to upper abdomen in the middle of our back. You can see here on this picture where it is, and we've moved from the bottom, moving up through. A couple of things about the solar plexus is it's our power center, it's our confidence center, it's our courage center. It lines with, usually the colors within the center are yellow. It's the idea is that it's bright and has a fiery energy. Our self-worth, our confidence, our courage. It also handles areas in the body like our stomach, as well as we have quite a bit of our nervous system that hangs out here. And our instinctive intuition is usually starts in this chakra. And yeah, I think there's a lot that happens in the chakra that we don't realize. And I think that this chakra, personally, I feel like this chakra influences other chakras and works with other chakras often.
100%. Thinking about that this morning, and when you put up the visual, I was like, in my personal experience, I'm like, yep, right down the line when I had issues, all of it. But I loved how you said intuitive instinct. Is that what you said?
Instinctive intuition. Yep.
Instinctive intuition, because so many people get confused. Well, is it my intuition from the brow chakra, the third eye chakra? Yes, it is. But how we use it, how we deal with it, the choices we make with it come from that solar plexus. I like that, the way you put that.
And I think that when we have this, I guess I'm going to hold off on that notion just for a minute and confirm with you. Is there anything about the solar plexus that I didn't mention that you feel we need to bring up as far as where it is and what it deals with?
No, I mean, with stomach, I include intestines, pancreas, liver, all of those kind of things. And the only thing I guess is that quick decision making, I would think, that stay or go, that yes or no, that instinctual decision making.
Okay.
And maybe some motivation as well, but all goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. Perfect. And that's my thing with the instinctive intuition, because I had that same question when I first dove into getting to know the chakras. I'm like, okay, well, if I got intuition up here and I want to expand my intuition, what the heck does my gut have anything to do with it? Why does my solar plexus have anything to do with it? And how can it be in two spaces? And I feel like it's that gut reaction, that gut instinct. When you go into a place and you get nervous, you have that gut reaction, like you're like, I don't know if I need to be here, or ooh, this is a place I need to be. And I often, we both have mentioned when we first started connecting through your group. It was this gut reaction like, yep, I need to know her more and we're going to have some good conversations. And we didn't know anybody, we didn't know each other for anything, but there is that gut instinct that, yep, this is something we need to lean into. So here we are, however
Right.
many years
I
later.
just want to, sorry, I just want to put this out there that you like really froze on me and I didn't hear a whole lot of what you said. So if my internet connection does that again, I'm going to ask you to pause it. I'll switch over to a different server.
Absolutely. Just let me know.
Yeah. But you're 100% correct. I remember like looking at your picture and seeing things that you posted in there, and I'm like, we're going to be friends. I don't know how we went, but for sure.
Absolutely. So I feel like I know for me personally recently, this has been one of the chakras that I have been moving through some stuff with. But I think there's a lot of people that are moving through some energy in this chakra. And it almost feels like, I don't want to say this in, because I always feel like sometimes when I hear it, I'm like, okay, what the heck does that look like in life? But I feel like our energy is leveling up within this chakra and like it's expanding its ability to do work for us. And in order to do that, it has to address some things that are in the way of that. So, like the things that are more lower vibration energies that have been hanging out in the solar plexus for a while that don't serve us and are preventing us from raising into these or expanding are being called to the surface to deal with. And I feel like they influence some other chakras, whether it's the heart or the sacral or both or other ones. I feel like there's a lot of sometimes yucky, mucky work that's happening in this chakra for so many people.
Yeah, I agree. Just yesterday, I had someone in here that we talked about her heart chakra needing some work. And like I said, I think in the previous episode, I always go to the preceding chakra to see what's wrong. And, her self-worth, her self-esteem, her self-confidence, motivation, all of that had been severely affected over the last few years. So it does. And again, when I was talking about how I was thinking about it this morning, my own personal experience touched on so many different chakras. And and I guess it makes sense when you think about it. It's your self-confidence and self-worth. If something knocks that out of whack, everything's going to feel misaligned and wonky and tentative and, scary to be vulnerable.
Absolutely. Well, and um, I know I've witnessed this rather intensely the past week or so within myself, but I've also witnessed it within clients that when the solar plexus is off, it can alter our ability to receive. And one of the main places we receive is our heart. But then also on that flip side, when we are in a fight or flight response and we stay consistently in a fight or flight response, be it because of a busy lifestyle or a lot of intense life experiences that have been happening or whatever is leaving you to maintain this fight or flight response in life, we shut down our heart and we shut down our crown. And when we shut down our heart, sometimes the solar plexus tries to take over and do the work for our heart. And it doesn't have the capacity to do that long term. Yes, they work together, but one can't do the work of another long term. So I feel like that's where some of these solar plexus imbalances are coming.
I
Hello.
got to pause.
Okay.
I missed that whole.
Alrighty. So we think we may have some of the glitches figured out, but if not, then we will figure them out along the way. So we were talking about the notion of the solar plexus and how when we shut down our heart, sometimes the solar plexus tries to take over. And when it does, it can be thrown off balance because it's doing the work for something that it's not used to doing. Our heart is a powerhouse chakra. And so I think that those two often work together in a heavy way.
Absolutely. And when your heart is shut down and instincts are shut down, I mean, just the thought of that feels kind of unnerving to me because
Hmm.
I've been there. I'm sure we've all been there, and you just kind of feel lost because you don't trust that instinct coming in. You don't trust a whole lot, and you don't know what to do and where to go.
Absolutely. And I think that when we have, so the solar plexus being our confidence center, our sense of self-worth, our sense of being enough, our courage center. If that is feeling off or is imbalanced and we don't have a sense of self-worth and we don't have confidence, it's hard to be courageous to move into new things in life. And also, I feel like when our solar plexus is off and we have that lessening of worth and confidence, I feel like it shifts our perception of our reality. And we have a hard time seeing more clearly what's happening within our life with a balance from others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but don't forget too, an imbalance can look like too much confidence, being too much for people, places, and then being overly.
Yeah, that's true. And it's
I
funny
was
because,
thinking that this morning when, no,
go ahead.
are we lagging?
There was a little bit with you, but we're all
I was
good.
thinking that. That's all good because so many I lost my thought for a second. Thinking less than, I'm less than, that self-confidence isn't there. But then I was like, what about those people who have that grandiose thought about themselves and those people who think they're greater than? That's still solar plexus too. It's just an imbalance. We always think of an imbalance as a shortage, and sometimes an imbalance is a surplus.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That notion of too much and coming from that place of ego, I think
Mhm.
also takes us out of, both of those can be a protective measure to protect the heart. That
Yeah.
notion of that ego, I am this is a way to take up space and prove value, but may also prevent you from receiving a more authentic connection because that vulnerability kind of happens in the heart.
Right.
And I guess maybe that's when we talk about the two of those together, there's having the courage to be vulnerable. I feel like is a conversation between the solar plexus and the heart chakra.
Mhm.
So we kind of dove in deep with conversations about how these chakras work together and and that notion of self-worth and self-confidence. But can we talk a little bit about, kind of back up a little bit and talk about how the solar plexus has shown up in our lives personally and professionally? Kind of simplify it a little bit versus diving right into the complications of it.
Well, I think my experience is the complications of it all. Like multiple times in my life, my self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem have been knocked out of whack for different reasons. But
Okay.
one in particular, couple I was thinking of this morning, definitely put me in a very emotional place with the sacral chakra. Definitely made me feel not safe, not secure with the root chakra. Definitely shut off my heart. I was like closed off to anything and everything. I actually stopped doing this work because I did not feel like I had that connection, that crown chakra or that third eye. I didn't trust anything. I didn't trust myself. So how could I trust that? I didn't
Mhm.
trust anything. So it really, that one I have to say throws me for a loop. I know we've talked about how the root, the heart, and the crown are those powerhouse ones, but in thinking about this today, I think for me personally, the solar plexus one is a powerhouse because it just has affected every chakra
Hmm.
in both times in my life.
You make a very good point with that, and reflecting on my own personal experiences. So I feel like as we've gone through these conversations, like I feel like it's almost like I'm being guided, like, okay, here, check this out personally too. Don't just share this
Mhm.
information with the world. You're gonna feel it authentically. And in that delay in recording the solar plexus, I think was on purpose because over the past week, I took a deep dive into the more shadowy side of my enoughness, and it wasn't pleasant. And I also see that it was an energy that was standing in my way of moving forward courageously. And your whole conversation about how this influences other chakras, it's like, yeah, this is a bit of a powerhouse too. And
Mhm.
that idea of, but I feel like it's a, I don't want to say passive aggressive powerhouse, but like it quietly influences everything else, but feels like a louder chakra. Does that make sense?
I don't know if my experience was quiet.
Right. Like,
It was in my face, like everything just shut down and stopped.
okay.
And I guess when something like that happens, you really have to do some soul searching to see where the root of it is,
Right, right.
which chakra it's actually stemming from.
And I think our conversations in general are inviting us into that place where it's not a single chakra conversation
Mhm.
anymore, that it becomes a, this is the experience you're having right now, and how can we work with your chakras to support you in moving through this experience. And
Yeah.
so often that ends up, clearly we're on the third chakra and we've talked about them all every time.
Right.
It ends up with that. But I guess one of the things that I recognize is that how our lack of confidence and our lack of worth can really affect the perception in life, or our overconfidence or overworth can really affect our perception of reality in life. And I guess to me that would be a connection with the brow chakra, but it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I could just agree with that. I got nothing to add to that. Just agree, 100%.
So for me personally, when I feel like my solar plexus is off, I have a tendency to feel like I am not enough
Mhm.
and I am too much. And they coexist at the same time, and it throws off. So I try to figure things out logically versus feel them through my heart, because I start feeling like my heart's lying to me and I don't know, you know what I mean? And I have a tendency to pull back and not share as vulnerably, because I feel like my vulnerability is too loud and too much and too in depth for people. I find that I don't think I necessarily have as much physical experience in the solar plexus when it's off as I do emotionally and mentally, but I have witnessed people, multiple people, who have a very physical experience in the solar plexus when it's off balance. They will have that nauseousness. They will have those physical sensations in that area. And a perfect example is my daughter Ava. When she experiences her anxiety, she experiences it very physically. And I think the solar plexus is one of those chakras where our anxiety is present. And I think it's present when we're trying to do too much work through our solar plexus.
Right.
And it's hers very much shows up in her, in the gut, and feeling that energy there.
It's really interesting to me because I do as well with the diverticulitis, but as soon as I get anxious like that or start feeling my solar plexus out of balance, I too get that nauseous feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I know what it is exactly. But it's interesting how you said when it happens to you, you what did you say? You do think about it logically as opposed to feeling it.
Right.
Where I go right to all the feelings, and I shouldn't do my heart, I should do my sacral chakra, but it's all about feelings. And when something challenges my solar plexus energy, it's usually from something outside of me.
Mm.
It's the self-confidence thing. When I have not done enough work on myself, or I've let it go and I allow myself to be vulnerable to other people's judgments, or what I'm projecting as their judgments onto me. But it starts in an outside area, but I cannot see that logically when I'm in it. I'm practicing that now.
Right. So I do have to say, I can't say as I'm logical about it, but I try to make logical sense of it. I try to process it in my mind versus allow it to move through my heart and soul or through my
Mhm.
emotions, because I experience things on an emotional, energetic level. When my solar plexus is off and that confidence is off, I try to figure it all out versus feel it all out. And that feels like a disorientation to me. But I love how you mentioned the notion of outside influences become, you become more vulnerable to those outside influences, or I love how you clarified that, the perception of outside influences. And I think when we have that confidence, there is just a natural protective mechanism that happens energetically where things outside of us don't influence us as much. But when we have that lack of self-confidence or self-worth, then it definitely means that we get influenced by that exterior, our perception of that exterior stuff. And I feel
Right.
like it also, that can trigger that over ego. Like when we feel like we don't have a lot of worth, we get these sensations from the outside, and I'm going to stand up and I am this, and we push back as a fight versus an allowance.
That's interesting that you put it like over ego, because I know I can put up a fight and put up a brick wall. I'm very good at that, but I don't consider that over ego. I feel like that's my defense mechanism. That's my way to back down. I'm going to put this wall up so I can shrink down and just feel my feels all by myself and try to figure it out without your input. But I don't feel like, for me, I don't feel like it's an over ego thing, but I'm sure that happens with other people.
Right. It's really and definitely a personal experience. And I think it's one of those spaces that we get the opportunity to look at and reflect on, what is this? And the idea that there is not one solid answer to how we experience these chakras, that what is my experience of this? What do I do? And what do I get to shift? So the idea is, like, if you have some of these things coming up, or if you have this sense of lack of worth, or you have this, like, you can't find the courage or what have you, this lack of confidence, or you're having these symptoms in your solar plexus, one of the things that you get to do is you get to embrace a meditation within the solar plexus, or you get to do certain activities that help you feel those energies and help take care of that space in your body to help nourish this energy. And you don't have to really know, what is it that I'm experiencing and how do I shift that? You don't have to figure it out logically, but allow some of those experiences to influence it energetically. And then the figuring out happens once you've shifted that on an energetic level. Does that make sense?
It does, and this is kind of off topic, but it kind of isn't. It's kind of the same thing. But lately, this has happened throughout my whole career doing this, but lately more so than ever, when I'm talking to someone, I do a guidance reading, I ask, first thing I do is check into their chakra system, ask where it is they need to place the most focus right now and why. And I will give them tools. Let's just say incorporate the color of the chakra into your life. And almost every one of them lately has said to me, well, that's funny because I just bought a yellow sweater and I never buy yellow. And I'm like, it's not funny. It's your body telling you you need solar plexus work. It's intuitive. Listen to it. But so much of that is happening. So, like you said, you don't have to worry. You don't have to know. Your body is telling you. Your body
Right.
is speaking to you. Just listen.
Absolutely. So let's use this flow to talk about some of the things that we do to support our solar plexus. Like, one of the things that makes a big difference in my solar plexus is recognizing my capability. So for me, that sense of worth and enoughness comes from recognizing my capability. And one of the things that I have found has been a very powerful shift lately within my solar plexus is, well, I guess two activities, but is working out. I have started working out probably 2 or 3 times a week with my husband, and we go to the firehouse and we go up to this little makeshift gym they have, and we don't say a damn thing to each other. We just do our things next to each other. But the music that I listen to, and the physical presence I have in my body, and the ability to do it, and that recognize that I'm capable of pushing myself, has been a powerhouse shift in my solar plexus.
Hmm.
And
That's awesome.
I'd have to say one of the other ones that makes a difference in my solar plexus is the EFT tapping. I feel like that hits on a few different levels, but I feel like I can use that to honor my confidence, and to support my confidence will forgive the parts that really don't feel confident. Um, but for me
It's interesting
personally,
to me for because I do know your backstory, it's interesting to me that one of your issues is your capability. And knowing my backstory and my most recent backstory, a lot of mine has to do with my confidence, like around my physical appearance. So when I have something going on with the solar plexus, like my first reaction is to clean, and that sounds crazy, but it's moving my lower body. So I'm always moving. So my husband knows if he comes home and the house is spick and span and there's something cooking and I'm not eating, that there's trouble brewing because those are my two
that's
go-tos when I'm
happening.
not feeling up to it. But I will go outside and walk, or I will do some kind of self-care to make myself feel better, whether that's a massage or getting my nails done or walking. So it's more of a me personal thing, not what I can do or something like that. It's just strange how much our past and backstories affect what still triggers us now.
Absolutely. And I think I think the solar plexus that leads us to that notion that our solar plexus is one of the first chakras that I starts showing up.
Mhm.
We have our root, which is very much about tribal and community energy, and then we've got our sacral, which is about our relationship and connection with others, and then the solar plexus starts that I conversation. I am confident, and not that there's a lot of I in the other places too, but it's that notion that this is where we start seeing those more personalized experiences within our life. And I
And
love
maybe
that.
getting that line blurred a little bit with what I experienced as opposed to what I actually am.
Right. Yes. And
Mhm.
defining, starting to define, have the courage to be vulnerable enough to define what I experienced is not who I am. And
Mhm.
that solar plexus may be where we start to pull apart those two connections.
Yeah.
I love that you work with your solar plexus by taking care of yourself and like that self care. That feels
Mhm.
like a really great heart chakra, solar plexus kind of combination.
That just works for that brokenness, that works on that brokenness inside that I feel.
Very cool.
Mhm.
How are some of the ways that you have seen other people work with their solar plexus? Is there anything different that you can stick up, like
Uh,
you have witnessed?
My go-to when anyone has anything in the lower three chakras is always just telling them the easiest thing you can do is just move those chakras. Sometimes like a powerful yoga move, like a mountain pose, or just something that's very simple like that can make you feel strong again and powerful and capable.
Very
Um,
cool.
but really, like, besides that, it's the color. I just want people to do the easiest thing. If you incorporate yellow into your life, bring yellow flowers in, put a yellow sweater on, whatever it is, your subconscious is going to be working on that energy anyway.
Yep, I love
People
that.
seem so overwhelmed, especially when they're having solar plexus issues and don't feel like enough and capable enough. I don't want to give them anything that they feel like they can't do.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Being okay with what works for you, what supports you at this time and helps you move forward versus trying to fit into a mold. I love that.
Mhm.
One of my go-tos is to work with the tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is a stone that I will wear often when I'm working on my solar plexus. Um, and I have some different ones. Actually, I have one over there I was going to put on, and I never did. But yes, the color, meditating on the color, and as well as I'll meditate with solar plexus music. And for me, I guess one of my things is affirmations. I know that's a throat chakra thing, but for me, often the affirmations hit on a solar plexus level too.
Sure.
And I often tell people, invite people to listen to that gut instinct. Start listening to that gut instinct and what it's telling you. Because I
Mhm.
think so much when we have a shift in our confidence and our worth, even in if it shifts to an overabundance of it, we have a tendency to not listen to that gut instinct.
Right.
And so when we start coming back to, okay, be present and listen, what is my gut telling me?
Right. And so to backtrack on that a little bit about the person that I had here yesterday, there is something that she wants to do in her life, to write something. And she has felt this passion since she was a child. So, I mean, that to me says this is part of your life purpose. If you haven't dropped this since you were a child, you are meant to do this. And her fear is her confidence is being challenged because what will my family think? And they
Mm.
already think this is ridiculous. And I'm like, what if, let's turn this around. What if they say, I didn't know she had that in her? How awesome is that? I didn't know she had that talent or those feelings, you know? And she's like, oh, well, you know, I always go down to the negative. I'm like, of course we do. It's just easier to cut ourselves down or think other people are doing that rather than them sitting there going, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know she had that in her. Awesome.
Absolutely. And it's that notion of having the courage to be vulnerable and put
Yeah.
yourself out there. Like I was having this conversation with my daughter Ava the other day, and I find myself inspired by her little self all the time.
Mm.
And she wants to be a flyer and she's doing cheer. And I have seen this build confidence in her and help her find her power quite a bit this year, and I'm so excited to watch her with it. And as long as it stays a healthy activity for her, then we want to foster that. But she wants to be a flyer, and so a flyer is one of the girls that they lift up. She has this fear of heights, and it's there and it's present and it dominates her mind. And it's not to the point that it takes it to an anxiety, which, hey, that's a powerhouse move in general, that it's not causing anxiety in her, makes me my mommy heart sappy. But she is afraid, and we talk about this notion of being afraid, and she's like, I just can't do it, I'm just too afraid. And we've talked about, you know what, sometimes having courage means doing it afraid.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and what was it that my oldest daughter wrote on her door before she left to college? It was um, a statement from a Disney show. Sometimes being afraid, something about being afraid is just a reason to try harder.
Mm.
But that notion of having that vulnerability to be afraid and try it anyway, that
Mhm.
feels like core solar plexus work right there. And
Absolutely.
I get sappy whenever we go to competitions because she's like beat so much anxiety to be there, and her excitement and her confidence in it. Like, I get tearing out just thinking about
I
it.
love that. And plus, being in the moment with all that excitement and all your friends and all that support around you has to be a little easier than sitting at home talking to you about it. You know, then all your fears get to come in. But when you're in the moment, you're not thinking of letting all those fears creep in as much as you would otherwise.
Absolutely. But it's that notion of being vulnerable, having the confidence to be courage to be vulnerable, to do it afraid. I love that. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about the solar plexus. I'd have to say that's probably one of the chakras when I first started this process years ago that I gave the least credit to and knew the least about, but as even within this conversation, how much it influences us and influences other chakras. You're very right.
And I was thinking about it today because we've spoken about addiction and where that shows up too. And I can see it in the solar plexus as well.
Yep,
Yeah, there's feelings around it like guilt and shame and things from sacral chakra and obviously root chakra. But there's also that feel of I should be strong enough to not be able to do this, or I should be enough to not have to need this. And that can really work on someone's self-confidence.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I do feel like I want to touch base on, because I haven't really mentioned it, but I have witnessed some pretty powerful solar plexus work happening in meditation. And it's really cool to witness people have these experiences in meditation where they're they actually visualize their solar plexus in certain ways. Like maybe it's they feel sensations in their body or they witness it in the imagery that they have in meditation, or they end up having a conversation with a version of themselves that isn't confident or what have you. But there's so many cool meditative journeys that have happened in the solar plexus that I just feel like I feel like I gotta throw that out there too. Like if we can't figure it out logically in our day-to-day life, then maybe we bring it to a meditation and witness it on a spiritual, energetic level first, and then do the work exterior. I love
It's
that.
so funny that you're saying this because in a very simplistic form, I said this to someone yesterday because I said about not being able to trust my instincts. And I said there was a situation that happened here where someone was lying to me and I was having trouble believing that they would do that. I knew it, but I was having trouble believing it. And I went into meditation and I literally could hear like 50 voices saying, they're lying, they're lying, they're lying, they're lying, like a whole crowd of people. And I'm like, just go into meditation, just go inward.
Yeah,
But then it was gone. Like I said it in the moment, but it was gone. And you reiterating it today, it's powerful for me.
absolutely. And that's the thing is like meditation, sometimes what we were talking about with the solar plexus, how like for me it ends up a logical like I try to figure it out in my head. And meditation is a way to get away from figuring it out and experience it. And I feel like that solar plexus is where that is one of those spaces that we can experience it to shift it.
Mhm.
Very cool. So, any last thoughts or ideas on the solar plexus?
No, I think we covered everything I was thinking about anyway.
Very cool. Absolutely. Same here. Do you want to pull cards for our solar plexus like we've done with the other chakras?
Sure, I'll let you go first. And I actually pulled out my tarot deck not to do cartomancy today.
Very cool. I love it. So I have the Soul's Journey deck by James Van Praagh. I've felt drawn to this deck recently, so we're going to shuffle it up and we're going to ask for a card that honors solar plexus energy today. What do we need to know about our solar plexus? We're going in and over here. So sometimes when I spread out the deck, if I feel like I'm leaning more towards the right versus the left or center, it feels like it honors our energy moving forward. And my first initial thought, even before I flip over the card, is it's time to have confidence in your forward motion. Actually, one of the things that comes up, this card comes up, is the imagination. I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. So the fact that this comes up when we're talking about the solar plexus, I feel like it is encouraging us to have confidence within our ideas and to let ourselves dream again and let our imagination have a seat at the table with fostering that intuition and those notions of what gets to happen, what do I get to do, and what gets to be, and have the confidence to take those notions and help them be a reality in your life and lean into them a little bit more as you move forward. It's funny because there's absolutely no yellow on this card whatsoever.
I was think that was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, interesting, absolutely no yellow. Well, I will follow that up with a no yellow card. And this is the Light Seers Tarot deck. Did we say who it was from? This is Chris Ann. It's from a Kickstarter. But I pulled the Knight of Swords, right? Yeah, the Knight of Swords in reverse. So swords are all about what's going on inside of our head and how we can let our ego get to us. But this is very much about scattered energy, not being focused, not being able to act correctly with our on instinct, letting maybe emotions get the better of us. But what I always notice when this is in reverse is that ground is up on the top. Whatever's on the top is forefront to me. And it feels very scratchy and dirty and rough and just muddy and not clear. And this one's always kind of interesting to me because in the upright position, it's kind of my knight in shining armor card. And this is like the person who's trying to fix everyone for everything else or trying to be more and do more when they just really have to focus on themselves and that purity of self.
The idea of being your own knight in shining armor like stuck out in my head. Like when you're trying to be too much in the world, bring it back and be your own knight in shining armor. I love that message. Thank you.
Exactly. And something that was told to me years and years ago is stop trying to save other people. First of all, it's not your job. Second of all, it's impossible. The only person you can save is you. And in trying to save other people, you're actually disempowering them of knowing that they can save themselves.
I
So how
love
do you do that?
I love that. I love that notion that you end up disempowering other people by trying to do it for them. I
Right?
think
That
that,
was like to me,
yeah,
because I never, ever, ever want to disempower anyone else.
yep,
And now I think about that a whole lot when I'm, I could do that better. I could do it faster. Just let me do it. Get out of my way. No, you're going to sit and do this and know you can do this yourself.
yep. And that it almost like you have to be willing to everybody has to have space to do it wrong in order to know that they can do it right. Um,
There's
and
lessons in doing it wrong.
I feel like, oh my, okay. Thank you for sharing that today. And I love the, I don't know, I just literally flew out of my head. Oh, like when we do what we do, half the time we're just creating space for people to connect authentically with themselves and understand themselves versus doing it for them. We're not doing anything. We're just creating space for you to do your stuff.
And I tell people every session, I'm only validating what you already know.
Yep.
For whatever reason, we can take it as gospel when someone else tells us or when 10 other people tell us the same thing, but you already know it inside. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Absolutely. Very cool. I love that. Thank you very much. Um, okay. So is there anything, now that we are wrapping up with this podcast, is there anything that you want to share that you're working on with them?
Well, I think I just will talk about that Daybreak Divination that I offer too. It's monthly. You can sign up month to month. You don't have to sign up for more than one. It's $44 for the month, and you get 4 cards, one a week, for personalized guidance for that week coming up. And I've been getting a lot of results from it. And I love, you don't have to tell me if it resonates with you, but I love the feedback that I'm getting from people telling me how much it resonates. And I just feel like it's that little spark people need to get them through a tougher time.
I love that. I love that it's personalized. That's really powerful. Very cool. For myself, I'm going to continue to share that you can use the code POD50 to get 50% off of the Unique Chakra Series Level 1, which is available virtually on my website, uniquebeautyandmeditation.com. As well as I want to share that in November, I am kicking off the Unique Chakra Series Level 2, where we actually journey through a bit of the chakras. We start with the physical body chakras, which we have talked about now, root, sacral, solar. Then we have a session where we talk about the heart, because she's a powerhouse and deserves a conversation all her own. And then we move through the spiritual body chakras, the throat, the brow, and the crown. And then we do a whole body chakra meditation, but that's a 4-part series to dive in a little bit deeper with a chakra series. So if you want more information about that, I encourage you to reach out for me. I can send you the link where you can sign up and be involved, and you can start having a conversation with your own chakras. We really appreciate you being here and sharing in our conversations. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions, or if you feel like these conversations will resonate with somebody else, feel free to reach out to us or to share with others. As well as I'm going to ask you to follow and subscribe in all the places to support that this podcast gets to happen. That helps. And if you leave a review in some of these places, if you can, that helps to build the awareness of the podcast and helps me as the podcaster get it out to you guys. So very cool. Thank you very much for having these conversations, Danielle, and being here with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, me too. I missed it that we couldn't connect soon.
Right? Absolutely. Very cool. Alrighty. And with that being said, enjoy your uniquely beautiful self and have a wonderful day.